he's
All right,
not talking
diving
about
in
passive
again,
resistance,
we've got
right?
something really
No,
unique
not
this time. Just one YouTube video, Aachen, Tebliği, and it's from a channel called Kemal Ersuzlu.
Oh, yeah, I've seen his stuff. Definitely thought-provoking.
For sure. And this one is a powerful mix of faith, history, and, a call to action for Muslims, especially in Western Europe. The language is strong, and the ideas really stay with you.
I think what struck me is how he really empowers his audience. He doesn't just talk about like historical forces, right? He calls on Muslims to be active, shaping history. It's like recognizing their potential to influence the world.
It's like he's saying, get off the sidelines and into the game.
Yeah.
I love that analogy he uses, moving from the periphery of history to the very center. Super inspiring.
Yeah, totally. And this shift, he argues, it hinges on a really profound belief that God intervenes in history through prophets. But then, and here's where it gets really interesting, he doesn't stop at just belief.
He says, okay, you believe this, now you have a responsibility to act.
Exactly. You can't just passively accept things. This belief, it compels you to actively shape the world, make a real difference.
And it seems like a big part of that action is about the Ummah, right? This idea of a unified Muslim community, that's central to his message.
Oh, absolutely. He sees this global Muslim community acting as one body, a force for positive change. He even rejects divisions within the community, pushes back against what he calls structural pluralism.
So instead of all these different groups acting separately, he wants a more unified, Ummah consciousness. What does that look like in practice?
Well, he really emphasizes, identifying as brothers and sisters, united by their faith rather than separated by, organizational stuff. This unity, he believes, is key for the impact he's talking about.
So how does this unified Ummah actually create change? He uses the term Salih Amel quite a bit, which I understand means righteous action, right? Can you break that down for us a bit?
Right. So Salih Amel, it's key. It's not just about these, big gestures. It starts with a personal commitment to self-improvement, aligning your actions with your faith, really embodying your true identity.
So individual transformation is the foundation for broader social change.
Precisely. It's this powerful idea. He even quotes, a famous saying, Allah will not change the condition of a people until they change what is within themselves. Personal accountability, the ripple effect of individual growth on the whole community.
But it's not all about introspection, is it? He also talks about the challenges the enemies Muslims face, particularly, what did he call it? Istikbar.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Istikbar, you can think of it as global arrogance or imperialism. He sees it as this driving force behind the exploitation of Muslim countries, and imposing harmful policies. It's a system that he believes needs to be actively challenged.
And he's not talking about passive resistance, right?
No, not at all. He's calling for active resistance against oppression, supporting resistance movements around the world. It gets pretty concrete there. It's recognizing injustice and working to dismantle those systems.
So we've got this call for individual change, a unified ummah, and actively resisting oppression. But what about, engaging with Western society as a whole? He seems to have a message for them too, especially intellectuals or those disillusioned with secular stuff.
Yeah, definitely. He really encourages Muslims to engage in intellectual discourse, to present Islam confidently as a viable alternative, to challenge what he sees as these limits of freedom within liberal societies. Be present, be vocal.
Don't shy away from those conversations. Offer a different perspective. He seems particularly focused on reaching out to, he calls it the lost generation of Muslims in the West.
Absolutely. He sees those who have drifted from the faith as crucial to rebuilding a stronger community. It's bridging the gap, fostering a sense of belonging, helping them rediscover Islam's beauty and relevance in their lives.
Bringing them back into the fold, so to speak. But how does he actually propose achieving all of this? It seems like a huge undertaking.
Well, he suggests a very practical solution, a council, an assembly where Muslims from all backgrounds can come together. A space for dialogue, sharing information, offering advice, and coordinating action, pooling resources, leveraging their collective wisdom.
So instead of these narrow partisan goals, he's pushing for a broader movement, driven by a shared purpose.
Exactly. He sees this assembly as a way to, move beyond division, work together for the greater good. And he specifically rejects just seeking power for its own sake.
Wow. A powerful message, a call to action that goes beyond just talk.
Absolutely. It's about harnessing the potential of the Ummah, to address the challenges they face and create a better future.
Definitely leaves you with a lot to chew on. What stands out most to you from this call to action? What steps, even small ones, could you take to contribute to a more unified and engaged Muslim community? We'll come back to those questions. We're going to explore some key themes in a bit. But first,
I think for me, what really hit home was his focus on that self-transformation, right? Like that's the basis for broader change. It's a good reminder, creating a better world starts with each of us taking responsibility for our own growth.
yeah, I'm with you on that. It's so easy to get caught up in the big picture, and forget that real change often starts with these small personal shifts.
Yeah.
And his emphasis on like unity within the Muslim community, that feels super relevant these days, especially with all the division and stuff we see.
Right, exactly. He's urging Muslims to move past those divisions, embrace this shared identity, this sense of belonging that goes beyond just like political or organizational lines. He sees that as like essential to becoming a force for positive change.
It's like he's trying to instill this sense of agency, this confidence in their ability to shape their own destiny instead of being defined by outside forces, right?
Exactly. He really challenges that often distorted image of Islam, that we see in the media. He calls on Muslims to define themselves on their own terms, articulate their own understanding of their faith, their place in the world.
I thought it was interesting how he specifically called out that Tevra Yurgumlu Bir Tanri image, the God defined by the Old Testament.
Yeah.
Don't let others dictate your beliefs, your identity.
Yeah, he's encouraging them to really examine those imposed narratives and assert their own authentic understanding of Islam. And it's not just about reclaiming that narrative within their communities, right? He's also calling for engagement with Western society.
Yeah, that's what struck me. He's not advocating for like isolation or withdrawal. He wants Muslims to confidently participate in those intellectual and cultural spaces, challenge assumptions, offer those alternative perspectives.
And he specifically encourages reaching out to those who've drifted from the faith, the lost generation, he calls them, rebuilding those connections, creating a stronger, more inclusive Muslim community.
Bringing them back into the fold. He's not shying away from critiquing Western societies either, right?
Yeah.
He points out what he sees as hypocrisy, the limits of their ideologies, the injustices perpetuated by their systems.
He's pretty critical of liberalism. He believes it promotes too much individualism, and leads to the exploitation of those who are vulnerable. He also condemns what he calls yabankalar yasasi, the immigration laws, sees them as discriminatory and unjust.
It's like a direct challenge to those systems of power, right? Ones that he believes are at the root of inequality and oppression. And he doesn't just critique the West, He acknowledges shortcomings within the Muslim community itself, calls out those who prioritize personal or partisan interest over the unity of the Ummah.
Yeah, like a call for collective introspection.
Right.
Real change requires honesty, right? Yeah. A willingness to confront those uncomfortable truths, both within and outside the community. He sees this as like a pivotal moment, a time for Muslims to rise to the occasion, fulfill their responsibility in shaping a better future.
So it's like a call to action on all these different fronts, right? Individual self-improvement, a unified Ummah, resistance against oppression, engagement with Western society, and this unwavering commitment to justice and truth.
It's definitely a comprehensive vision, ambitious for sure. And while it's challenging, he seems to believe it's absolutely essential for the future of the community and, the world as a whole.
And he actually offers some practical steps, right? Like creating that council or assembly to, facilitate communication and coordinate action globally.
Right. He sees that council as a space for like strategic planning, knowledge sharing, collaboration across, national and cultural boundaries.
He even mentions a federal roof.
Oh.
That suggests a more decentralized structure, right? Respects the diversity of the Ummah while maintaining a sense of unity.
Makes sense, given his emphasis on organic community building, moving away from those rigid structures. He also talks about the importance of Isman specialization.
So he believes in developing expertise, right, in all these different fields, intellectual, economic, social. That's crucial for addressing those complex challenges the Muslim community faces today.
Yeah, it's about equipping themselves, with the knowledge and skills to be effective agents of change.
He gets it. Passion and good intentions, they're not enough, right? You need that strategic thinking, the expertise, the coordinated action to make a real difference.
For sure.
He wraps up by urging his listeners to embrace those principles of Asr Suresi and to engage in that Salih Amal.
It's putting faith into action, living a life of purpose, guided by those principles of justice, truth, unity. And he actually invites his listeners to join this council, to be a part of the solution.
It's powerful, you know.
Yeah.
It leaves you with this sense of urgency, but also hope. He doesn't sugarcoat anything, but he offers a path forward, a vision of what's possible.
His closing words, Allah, salamniel uzurinida olsun, may the peace of God be upon you. It leaves a real impression.
A nice reminder. In the midst of all the struggle, there's a higher purpose that's striving for peace and justice. And even though it's directed at Muslims, it resonates with anyone who believes in a more just and equitable world.
Totally agree. We all have a role to play, right? Even those small acts of kindness, courage, compassion, they can make a difference.
So having really dug into this video, I'm curious, what resonated with you most? What stood out as particularly powerful or thought-provoking? Let's take a moment to reflect on those questions before we move on to, unpack some key takeaways and explore what putting these ideas into practice might actually look like. This video, really got me thinking. There's so much to unpack, and it's clear that knowledge, education, that's at the core of it all. He talks about Sahib Bilgi, accurate knowledge, being so crucial for navigating the world today.
Yeah, he emphasizes knowledge as a tool, both for understanding Islam and, engaging with the world around you. Not just religious knowledge either. It's about actively seeking a deeper understanding of everything.
He uses this phrase, I love it, Kuma, reading the world. It's like he wants Muslims to think critically, really engage intellectually, not just passively taking in information.
He wants them to shape the intellectual landscape, and he really stresses engaging with, secular knowledge, Western philosophy and science, broadening their understanding so they can participate in that global discourse.
And it's not just about consuming knowledge either, right? He wants them to share what they've learned, reach out to people searching for answers, offer a different perspective.
Right. It's this beautiful balance, inward reflection and outward engagement, strengthen themselves intellectually and contribute to the global conversation.
He really believes Islam has something to offer, right? Something valuable that can help us address these challenges, these crises we face today. He's not afraid to challenge the status quo, offer a different vision.
Takes courage to do that, to call out the hypocrisy, the limits of Western ideologies, the injustices. But he doesn't stop there. He offers solutions.
He wants Muslims to resist oppression, support those fighting for justice, actively work towards a more equitable world.
And he presents that council, that assembly, as a way to move forward, a platform for action, sharing resources, uniting around a shared purpose.
It's bold, it's ambitious, but it speaks to the potential of the Muslim community, right? If they can overcome those divisions, unite, they could be a real force for good.
At the heart of it all, it's this belief in unity, the power of collective action guided by faith, and a commitment to justice.
It's a message that goes beyond religion, I think. It speaks to anyone who wants a better world, who believes in creating a more just, compassionate society.
A message of hope, resilience, that strength of the human spirit. It leaves you feeling inspired, ready to make a difference.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this final thought. What will you do with this call to action? How will you contribute to a more just, compassionate, equitable world? Keep diving deep, keep seeking knowledge, and keep striving for a better tomorrow. That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.